As I was listening to a couple different studies on Revelation from different people, the current one being Michael Heiser covering John's use of the Old Testament in Revelation, but I'm also listening to a friend of mine teach a class on Revelation, and I've tried to occasionally study Revelation with a couple of other people. But aside from that, because I did not cover Revelation in my commentary, there was a thought to maybe talk about my thoughts verse by verse and go through the chapters that way, or write it down as one of the next things that I write. It could take a long time and it would require a lot of study, which is why I'm also looking through this. Something was mentioned in the last video where the part one of Heiser talking about Revelation 21 to 22. And as he got to the end there, because I don't agree with him all the way, he makes a lot of really good points, and it's very good, and he's building this case that I agree with. And then there's a point at which I think, well, now you failed because you went back to this idea that doesn't really belong and isn't supported by what you just said. But you have to, like, it's like you're stuck in that. But he's getting to this, the dwelling place of God is with man, like the idea that we shouldn't be looking for a physical temple on earth, and that Jerusalem and all this stuff, New Jerusalem. And yeah, I do cover a lot of that in my commentary, but one thing that I did not cover, that it would be real simple just to add a tag or just a line or two toward the end of the commentary, because it is sort of the conclusion. There's a moment where Jesus is talking about leaving, and I think this is John 13, John 14. And he says that it is better that he goes to the Father. It is better that he goes back to the Father. And I've had this discussion in a class or two where we've covered why it is better that he goes back. Now, there was a couple, like trying to imagine, trying to invent a reason, just throwing out theories as to why Jesus going back to the Father would be good. And originally it was this idea that, in heaven, this thing, if you hold to a Trinitarian model that we call the Trinity, God as the Father, Son, and the Spirit, all being in one location, no problem. But the full presence of the Lord in the universe is destructive. I don't have any resources. I can't pull that up for you right now, but that is the idea that is typically run with there, that you can't gaze upon the Lord because you'll die. Yeah, his presence will melt the mountains and things like that. So the full destructive force would be bad. So you don't want Jesus and the Holy Spirit in one place like that. But that's not really where we should have gone with that. And I think that was mostly me at the time. But rather, we also discussed the localization of Jesus the man and the multi-locational power of the Holy Spirit dwelling in us. So why is it better that Jesus goes back to the Father? Well, he also says that he's not abandoning us. He's not leaving us as orphans. He's going to send a helper, and that helper will guide us and all this stuff. And then he does. He sends the Holy Spirit. And then John also would connect this to saying that the dwelling place of the Lord is in man, or is with man. It's in us, and that's true. That connects. That still makes sense. It's all talking about the same thing, that Jesus as a local man ruling on a throne is not as good as God being in, or available to be in, every person and ruling us, ruling our lives, being the final authority, all authority being his on heaven and on earth. It's just, and I forgot where I was going with that, but it's better. It's bigger and it's better. And it can be everywhere. It doesn't have to be one person seated in one spot. That would actually be not as good, not as powerful. That would be reversing what he has done. And this is probably something that I should have written as one of the overarching problems that I have with people's eschatology, or this idea that came about that Jesus ever said that he, as a localized ruler, would come back. Because it's worse. It's worse than what he did. It's worse than what we have right now. And it's very much in that that vein of self-worship and making God into man, but rather making man into God. Because people would, and I know it's in my introduction, but people would like to see themselves with their stuff, with their things, with their lives here on this planet forever. That's what they want. They don't want to reside with God. They want God to reside here and for us to be here forever. Well, this earth will be destroyed. Okay, but he's giving us a new earth. So it would just be this, but better. And that's the problem. They want this, but they want this and they want better than this, rather than what God promises us, which is that we will have better than this, but it is not this. And we get both right now. We get all three. We get his rule better than a localized ruler, because he can be anywhere and everywhere and in all of us. And we can get the helper, and we are made alive. And we, though during this time, spend our time in these bodies, when this flesh fails us and passes away in the blink of an eye, though no one knows the hour, it will come like a thief in the night. We will transition as if stepping through a door from this life to the next. I don't believe that they speak of a localized return, any New Testament author. I believe that their teachings are consistent, and there's just no reason to think that he ever promised to do something worse than what he has already done.